Folks, I am so excited to welcome to As the World Churns, Kate Compton Barr, who is the loser in chief of the Can't Win Victory Fund. It's a hell of a name, but we are in a hell of a time. I would say that I'm tired of losing, but you tell me why we shouldn't be tired of losing.
Because we lose because of our gerrymandered maps. So I'm sitting here in North Carolina. I'm actually on vacation with my family in Western North Carolina right now. Because of our gerrymandered maps, there is still debris from Hurricane Helene sitting in the middle of the roads. And folks who are supposed to be taking care of that and representing these constituents can just ignore it because the districts have been drawn to protect their power no matter what.
I think that we kind of use the word gerrymandering and we talk about the ways in which Republicans have been able to solidify power without actually having to answer to their constituents. And we use this term, but really break it down for us in how, because that's a perfect example. Hurricane Helene was how many months ago, right? And we know that it was devastating, but at the same time, we also know that we have FEMA, we have these different agencies that are put in place to deal with the disasters that are becoming more frequent because of climate change that come into certain areas of the country. So talk to us, though, about gerrymandering and because I feel like we have kind of shrugged our shoulders about it. Yeah, well, that district is gerrymandered. Yeah, well, voter suppression, that's just part of politics, that we've allowed ourselves to believe that that is just inevitable.
Yeah, it's also because it's like a really crappy word and it sounds like the kind of thing you would write a thesis about instead of something that would, say, affect your daily life. So part of the job of losing in these gerrymandered districts is to really bring gerrymandering down to ground level for voters. So basically what happens, let's use North Carolina as an example. Every 10 years, we have a census required by the Constitution. That's where, you get the papers in the mail. We have to count every citizen in the U.S. And then we have to have our voting districts drawn based on that census because our districts need to have roughly the same number of people in them. That's how you get one person, one vote. So our votes are equal. The trick is who's drawing the districts. In some states, they're drawn by like a citizens commission. So it's a nonpartisan group who is trying to draw districts according to all of the criteria laid out to make a good district. In a state like North Carolina, it's our state legislators. Incidentally, the state legislators will be elected by those districts. So they're incentivized to draw a district that will make it as easy as possible for them to keep their seats. So in North Carolina, we have 170 state legislative seats. That's 50 in the Senate and 120 in the House. North Carolina is a purple state. I don't know if y'all just saw Justice Allison Riggs won by 734 votes out of 5.5 million. So we should really have like 50% Democrats, 50% Republicans in our state legislature. What we actually have is more like 60% Republicans and 40% Democrats. So that's out of whack. And we only have about 20 competitive, and that's generous, 20 competitive state legislative seats out of 170. So that means 150 districts in our state. The state legislature seat is basically determined before anyone casts their ballot. That, first of all, is bullshit. Second, it means that those representatives don't answer to the voters. And so you can have things like elected leaders from Western North Carolina counties who do not advocate for FEMA support after a hurricane because they are more concerned with not getting a well-funded Republican primary opponent than they are with their voters actually holding them accountable in the general. So it's a shitty system. It's been around since 1812. It's not like it's new. It's just with our computers, we've gotten better at it. Like they used to gerrymander with crayons in the 1970s, and now we have like statistical models. And so they make these districts with surgical precision. And in North Carolina, our state Supreme Court most recently said that partisan gerrymandering was allowed under our Constitution. And so they gerrymandered the shit out of us.
And so here, this is what happens, right? What I see as the response to gerrymandering is that people then just begin to give up, right? That they just decide, well, what difference does my vote make? What difference does it make if I volunteer on this campaign, if I get out there, if I try and organize? Because at the end of the day, it's not going to matter. And I believe that, the driving force for Republicans is hopelessness, right? Like particularly in state and local spaces, it is the desire to just drive hopelessness to a point where people don't even try. And so that's where can't win comes in, right? Which is this idea that, you know, we actually need to keep trying. So talk to us about the birth of this idea and why it's something that we really need to take hold of, because I think that it is a driver of faith, right? The faith that we actually can change a historically broken system.
Yeah. I mean, you basically nailed it. So I ran for state senate in 2024. I declared my loss on the day that I filed to run for office because I was running for a gerrymandered seat. Um, and I lost. But along the way, we tried a whole bunch of different ways to talk to people about gerrymandering and how it affects their daily lives. And what
Hmm.
we saw on election day was that my district got a little bit bluer amid a red wave. We saw voters flip from R to D, only a few hundred, but in a state like ours, that matters. And we saw like maintained voter turnout in a year where turnout was a little bit lower than our 2020 election. So it seemed like having a candidate who showed up,
Hmm.
was radically transparent about what was going on, and like I did all the candidate things. I knocked on doors, I kissed
Hmm.
babies, I spoke places. But what I didn't do was tell people a lie about the fact that I could win. And I didn't fundraise. So it was basically just I am here to make as much noise as I possibly can kind of campaign.
Mm.
We kind of wondered, all right, well, if that worked in one place, imagine if you have 20 people running that way or 100. um, we can start to really affect these statewide races. And then they have to start paying attention to us. So even if it's not at a district level, if we are able to generate the kind of impact on a state Supreme Court race, we have Justice Anita Earls up in 2026, and she is the next step on our path to fair maps. They will have to start listening to us. And turns out gerrymandering is like a nonpartisan issue. Everybody fucking hates it.
Right.
I got more MAGA handshakes for talking about it and saying I'm running on principle than, I mean, like I kind of wanted to bathe in hand sanitizer at the end, but the deal is nobody likes it. Voters know what it feels like to be ignored. They want
Right.
someone to show up for them. We need to have like cool community leaders showing up in these districts and like carrying the message of like change.
Hmm.
But we don't need them to be lying about the fact that they can win, because that's when we start to look like fools, because all those voters know. I mean, we've been living with this for a long time. So we all
Right.
know the reality. So when somebody comes in and says, I'm going to win this thing, it just feels ridiculous. Plus, we really, really, really have to show up to elect Justice Earls. In North Carolina, we had to elect Justice Riggs. We
Hmm.
need to reelect Justice Earls. And then in 2028, we need to elect 3 Democratic state Supreme Court justices, and then we get fair maps. So this is all a part of the plan.
A larger build out of
Yep.
what. Okay. So, here's the thing too, because I really I appreciate the honesty and the integrity behind what it is that Can't Win is doing, what you all are doing, because I think that it's important. One, I really want you to also kind of unpack for us the reason why you're not fundraising, right? Because some people would say, well, even if you can't win, right, don't you need money in order to be able to spread your message? So talk to us about the reason behind the non-fundraising.
Yeah, and to be clear, the Can't Win Victory Fund is fundraising so that
Okay,
we can support these candidates everywhere, and they don't have to go to their neighbors and ask for
got it.
money for a losing campaign. You have credibility when you tell people the truth, and we need to rebuild credibility, especially in the Democratic Party right now. We need to be our authentic selves. When you can't win, you can literally do anything. You can't screw it up. So we can have candidates run and be their authentic selves, and we can try new things. We're trying a whole bunch of stuff around messaging in these red districts so that we can learn. But also, one of the worst parts of running for office is the fundraising piece and having to go mostly to your friends and family and call them and ask them for their hard-earned money, especially if it's a race you know you cannot win. So our goal is for the Can't Win Victory Fund PAC to be able to make donations to our Can't Win candidates, just up to the maximum, right? And then those candidates can use the money to print their walk cards and to put out a couple of digital ads. And then they don't need to ask their friends and family for money. And that's how you get better candidates to run. Because in 2030, when we have fair maps, we need candidates with name recognition and experience to stand up against those incumbents. And so we got to make it as easy as possible right now for folks to get that practice, frankly, and to carry our message and to help Justice Earls get reelected and to rebuild credibility in red districts. I mean, when you only have 20 competitive seats, that means 150 districts feel ignored by both parties. That's a huge opportunity for Democrats.
Let me ask you this too, because again, I think that the problem that Democrats have there's so many, but
among many,
but one of them is the messaging, right? Is figuring out how to package and sell a message that people are going to grab hold of, right? And I talk about this ad nauseum on this show and others. When you say that you're giving candidates, right, an opportunity to be their authentic selves and try different things, different tactics. Talk to us about some of the things, because you're also a behavioral scientist, right? Like you also are steeped in understanding how people think, why they think the way that they do, what prompts their action versus them staying home, et cetera, like across the board. So talk to us about some of the tactics that you are trying that like we don't see play out, for instance, on the national level, because people are focus group to hell. And they have inside the Beltway consultants that are telling them like, no, 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 don't be your authentic self because that doesn't sell. Be this manufactured version that we think will get us across the finish line.
Yeah, I mean, my expertise is in persuasive communication. And the reality is there's no single message that will work for everyone. So what we need is the right message for the right voter at the right time. And that means we need people who are in those communities, who understand their communities and how, like, as authentic members of those communities, they know how to talk to their neighbors better than anyone in DC ever will, frankly. And so what we want to do is give them the tools to take what they know about their community and then get it into the world as quickly as possible. So the grassrootsy side of our work is running these losers. We call them can't winners or candidates in as many places as possible. And then we have a tech side where we are training large language models to think like target voting groups, like hyper specific ones, so that if you're in North Carolina Senate District 37 and you know what the kind of target voter profile is for your district, in 2026, you could have a message idea, show it to that voter model, and it will predict how the message will perform. So you can kind of try a bunch of different things, hopefully inspiring a lot of creativity without spending money. You can check your message. If it's a great one, maybe you put a little money behind it to do digital advertising, or you put it on your walk card. If it's not a great one, the tool makes some suggestions for making it better, or you go back to the drawing board and try some more things. And we keep training those models based on what you yourself as a candidate are experimenting with. So it's this like blend of grassroots door knocking followed up with authentically voiced, targeted messaging that is appropriate for that community.
So if you were thinking to yourself, right, these are the ways in which Democrats on the national level are failing. If I were to sit down in a room with these folks as like we are 6 months into the Trump regime and they have yet to figure out a proper pathway forward. We're just like fucking spinning our wheels here as we're watching every part of our nation and democracy crumble in front of our eyes. What would be some of the advice that you would offer based on what you have seen from the 2024 presidential and how things are unfolding with what I'm looking at is the lack of knowledge. Like what did you learn? What have we learned, right, as a party over the last 9 years of Donald Trump being around and being in power in the Republican Party? What has been learned? Like what would you offer to them?
Yeah, we struggle so much with wanting to give people all the information so they can make up their own minds. We got to stop that shit. Find 5 words,
Mm.
everybody use them at the same time, and just like make them specific. So one of the examples I'll use is like Trump ran on no tax on tips. That message applies to maybe 3% of the electorate, maybe. But
Mhm.
what it communicated to people is like, he understands blue collar workers. He understands the financial pressures we're under. Our brains, this is just like a cognitive thing, are much better at taking this very specific example and kind of extrapolating how it might apply to our lives versus something like the opportunity economy, and which is a big idea and was actually like an incredible package of proposals that really, really, really would have helped a lot of people. But the idea was too big and people couldn't figure out how it applied to them quickly.
Mhm.
So, I would break things down into like big money for small business would have been a great
Mm.
opportunity
Mhm.
economy thing, right? So, big money for your small business would have been even better. And I think now what we need to be doing is getting real clear. I mean, we have this like big, ugly, big, beautiful, whatever you want to call it, bill rolling through. And everybody's distracted by the spat between Musk and Trump when we really need to be talking about the fact that billionaires are about to get a tax cut and you
Yep.
yourself are going to pay more. And so get focused, don't get distracted, stop trying to sound smart and like deliver all the information. Um, do y'all remember those? They sounded like caveman speak kind of signs from the Trump campaign that were like, Kamala high taxes, Trump low taxes. Did you see those? Yeah, so effective because
Yep.
people could understand them as they were driving by. Not grammatically correct in many cases.
Yep.
Like,
But that's authenticity, right? Like,
apparently,
apparently.
I mean, Trump is the master of telling a lie and making it sound like the truth because he says it in a way that's like,
Convincing.
it's convincing and it seems like it's breaking the norms and the rules. And so people are like, oh, he's willing to tell the truth in the face of, whatever sort of backlash he'll get for saying it that way. Like he's just real direct about it, even when it's a lie. But we need to be real direct about telling the truth.
Mm. Well, Kate, we will leave it there today. This is fantastic. Please tell people how they can learn more about Can't Win and connect with you all and the work that you're doing.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. You can find me at can'twinvictoryfund.com, at Can't Win Victory Fund on all the social media platforms except for X because we don't do that, or at Kate Barr Can't Win. And if you are thinking about running for office in a district where you can't win, please let us know. We are actively recruiting our candidates right now.
All right. Amazing. Thank you so much. Really appreciate you, the work that you're doing, and your time today.
Appreciate you, Danielle. Thank you.